Judge Pirro, welcome to the Savage Nation. Honor to be with you.
Oh, it is an honor for me to be with you as well, Michael. I must tell you that my mother is your biggest fan, Esther Ferris from upstate Elmira, New York. So,
you know, all the mothers of people in the media love me. It's funny. The mothers and fathers love me, but they themselves don't.
You know what? I get the same thing, Michael. It's like, oh, my mother loves you, my aunt loves you, my grandmother loves you. So I guess we're in the same way. Ain't so bad to be in.
Judge, I was watching you talk about the VA scandal before the latest scandal about the release of the deserter, which we get hit with one wave after another, don't we? And what struck me most about your flawless presentation is that you said what the crimes were on the VA scandal. Do you care to repeat them on the show right now?
Sure. Look, what went on in the Veterans Administration, and the fact that everybody knew what was going on, as far as I'm concerned, and you said it, Michael. I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA for 30 years. I run a major office in a metropolitan area where I'm the chief law enforcement officer. This is an organized criminal enterprise, what went on in the Veterans Administration. The crime, negligent homicide. When you know that someone is going to die, you are their guardian, they are in your care. That is criminally negligent homicide, or under the federal statutes of voluntary manslaughter. Falsifying records, tampering with evidence, obstruction by intimidation of the whistleblowers, and it goes on and on. And as far as I'm concerned, this is something where we could actually do a RICO. It's almost like a mob family. Because what they're doing is they are doing this the oldest of motives, and that is...
Judge, are you sure you're not talking about the San Francisco area's voting situation here? There was a man indicted, Shrimp Boy. He's in prison. He dropped out of the race, and he received several 100,000 votes anyway. I mean, I was calling for the UN to come in and supervise our votes here. But we'll get back to that in a minute. Judge Pirro, you're so outspoken on so many issues, and the latest scandal is the issue of releasing 5 hardened generals of the Al-Qaeda army back onto the streets, no matter what they say. They're keeping an eye on them in gutter. How are they keeping an eye on them? With what?
Well, you know what? That is the biggest joke. Here's the bottom line, Michael. Those 5, who are the worst of the worst, were released by Obama, as far as I'm concerned, because he made that promise to the left of the Democratic Party that he would close down Gitmo. Where's the moral equivalency? I mean, how do we trade 5 for 1? But here's my point. When I heard, and I've known about Bergdahl for a long time, I mean, and you know, the fact that he left, he was AWOL, he called to say he was AWOL, he didn't want to come back. Here's my feeling. Look, you want to be with the Taliban? You know what? Stay with them. We can keep these 5 guys in Gitmo, and you can stay with the Taliban, and it's all good. But I'll tell you, this administration adds insult to injury. When we've got the Secretary of Defense, Chuck Hagel, who called Bo Bergdahl's family to offer support and medical care, and tells us that it's a rush to judgment and unfair to start to label them, that's hogwash. You know why? He doesn't do that for the military families of the dead who have been killed in Afghanistan, but he does it for this guy, and I'm not afraid to say it, Michael. Bergdahl should have been left there. And he wanted to be with them.
And he talks about not leaving a man behind, and we're talking about a man who allegedly walked off his post and left his belongings. But why don't they care about the U.S. Marine who's being viciously treated in Mexico right now, and they do nothing about him? But, you know, Judge Pirro, you called on May 4th for the impeachment of Barack Obama, which is very unusual for a mainstream individual in the media. Didn't you do that?
Yes, I did. I thought that, you know, the Constitution talks about high crimes and misdemeanors, and I think that what this president has done, think about it, we actually impeached Bill Clinton, the House did anyway, for having a sexual escapade with an intern. This guy has lied to the American people, our president. He's told them that they can keep their doctors, they can keep their health care. I know people with terminal cancer, and I've had them on my show, Justice with Judge Jeanine, and they have lost their doctor. They can't get the care that they need because this president lied to them. To me, Michael, that is a little more serious than somebody having a fling with an intern, all right? And if we can impeach a president for that, this man should be impeached, and it goes on and on and on. And he knew that we couldn't keep our health care. Now, with the Veterans Administration, administration. He knew when he was running what a mess it was, and for him to come before us and say, Shinseki, then the VA secretary, didn't know, does he think we're stupid? I mean, they obviously think we're stupid. They keep selling us a bill of goods, and I'll tell you what, I think Judgment Day will be the midterms. I think that these midterms in 2014, the American people, if they don't get it, if they don't send a message, if we don't take the Senate, then you know what? Shame on us, because it has been one lie.
I agree, but what worries
a weekly scandal.
What worries me, Judge? Here's what worries me. Yes, of course, if there was a fair vote, the bums would be thrown out for all of the scandals. But why is Obama flooding America with 60,000 or more so-called children from Central America, putting them on military bases? I fear they're going to use all the illegal aliens in this country, as they did in a previous election, to vote again. I also fear, having seen what just happened in San Francisco, that they can literally adjust the vote electronically. That's what really frightens me, Judge. I think we've lost our democracy entirely under this administration.
Michael, I don't know how else to say it. America is no longer recognizable. The America that I grew up in, and the America that my father fought in World War II and my grandfather fought in World War II, is not the same. He is flooding this country. He is changing the demographics. He is creating basically a socialist state where there is this negative slant if you happen to work hard and then be a success. He thinks he's Robin Hood, and I hate to even give him that kind of positive image. But what he has done is he has changed America. To have the Justice Department, think about this, Michael, go after the voter ID laws. Well, I have to show my ID to get into a building in Manhattan.
There is not a Western democracy. Judge, there's not a country on earth that has a democracy that does not have voter ID. How in the world could they not have voter ID in this country?
IRS does. And then to make healthcare 1/6 of the American economy, this country is not the America that I grew up in. And Michael, I don't know how to say it, but I don't think it's going to get better.
Okay, Judge, you and I see the world the exact same way, which is why I asked you to come on the show, and you so graciously agreed to do so. If those of us in the media who are willing to say what we see are speaking out so vociferously, and you going so far as to call for his impeachment, what do you fear? No, let's put it another way. Do you think anything that this man does could finally bring this administration down? What could happen to finally bring the American people to be aware of how corrupt the administration is?
You know, it's a good question, Michael, and what I fear for this country is the creation of a generation of people who are on the dole, who don't believe in work, who don't believe in the ethic that what this country is about, and understand that we are, the descendants of people who worked the soil and fought hard for truth and justice. That's not the case anymore. This administration, I think the worst thing they've done, Michael, is they have shaded truth so that truth is no longer, the dividing line between good and bad. It's like, okay, we lied about Benghazi, and okay, we lied about the IRS, and but don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. We'll put you on disability. We'll give food stamps. I am tired of senior citizens who have to decide between food and medicine. While, we've got these freeloaders who came here illegally. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be an apologist.
Judge, on Monday night after he lied to us about this Bergdahl situation and the danger that he put us in by releasing the terrorists, he flew off to Poland and demanded $1.4 billion in emergency funding to house and feed at least 60,000 illegal aliens that he just brought in from Central America. By the way, Judge, here's something for your show. I know Guatemalans who made the trek through Mexico. They were beaten by the Mexicans, robbed by the Mexicans. The women were raped by the Mexicans. How do 60,000 children come here from Central America without being molested on their way through Mexico? How are they coming through a superhighway? Who's helping them in Mexico?
What do you think? You answer the question.
What, are we running Greyhound buses to Guatemala and to bring them in?
Well, it's also, what it's like? It's like the Homeland Security buying all the bullets. I mean, and the uniforms. What's that about? It's almost as though you talk about wag the dog, Michael, and I have long agreed that this administration has wagged the dog. But there's another movie I'm going to throw in here, and that's The Manchurian Candidate. And what we've got now is someone who is, to our faces, doing things that no one is standing up to. And these people in Congress are, they're held in such low esteem for good reason. The system is corrupt. And for those people who think that they can actually go to Washington and make a difference, my fear is that they can never make a difference. There are some outstanding people. I have Jason Chaffetz on my show, congressman from Utah this weekend. Trey Gowdy's a congressman that I'm friendly with, who's going to be running the select committee. But, truth and justice has no place in Washington anymore. And Eric Holder, I call him in over his head holder, because this guy won't prosecute anybody. He won't prosecute anybody. And this VA scandal, Michael, is the worst of the worst. When we give health care to illegals, we give health care to convicted felons, and we can't give health care to people who are veterans who fought for us in our own hospitals, dying because some clerk wants to make some money. And Obama's resolution is, let's take away their 2014 bonuses. Really? I mean, aren't you fearful?
We're speaking with the bravest. I'm speaking with the bravest woman in the American media who should be president. That's Judge Jeanine Pirro. She's my hero. I never say that. Judge, you got to understand something. I'm so egotistical, I would never say that about anybody in the media, let alone anybody in politics. I love you. I think you should run for office. I don't think that's what you want to do. But you're on Fox News, and you actually called for the president to be impeached. If you'd be so kind as to stay with us, I'd like to ask you when we come back on the Savage Nation, what reaction have you gotten for saying the president should be impeached? Because this is something that I haven't heard, frankly, any of your cohorts say on Fox, and some of them do a great job, by the way, but none of them have gone that far, Judge. The minute I return in the Savage Nation, we'll have Judge Jeanine Pirro back to answer the question on saying the president should be impeached. I want to know what reaction she's gotten right here on the Savage Nation. George. It is the Savage Nation. We're coming to the end of hour number 2, and Judge Pirro, who was on Saturdays on my favorite show on Fox, is on this show, and I asked her what reaction she's had for calling for the president's impeachment. It's a very serious issue here. I mean, I can do it. No one pays attention to me. But I want to find out what's happened with her, and she's in a rush because she has to go on a run before it rains over there in New York. So, Judge Pirro, welcome back to the program. What kind of response have you had in your calls for an impeachment?
Well, every time I ask for it on my show, I get an enormous response on social media and Twitter. Facebook. I'm at Judge Jeanine. And it's usually almost a call to arms. People say things like, you should have been impeached the first term, you should have been impeached for lying to get into the second term. But then again, Michael, I live in New York, and New York is, you might call it a blue state, you think?
I would call it a Marxist state. They should have been everything, as you know. The left co-ops everything. They should have been the red states. But yes, I get it.
Yeah, and in New York, my friends will say, "Are they forcing you at Fox to say that?" Because I've run for office 5 times in New York, I won every time, but the last one. And the truth is that, people found that, my philosophy was, protect the victim, put the criminal in jail, and save money, conservative in terms of finances. But my friends would say to me, Jeanine, are the people at Fox forcing you to say that? And I say, hell no. I'm saying it because I believe it. I'm saying it because I can say whatever I want. Here's the bottom line. I've got evidence. I've got facts. And that's what my open is about. It's an opening statement to a jury, and I've tried many cases. And the whole point is, when you've got the evidence, when the facts are with you, there are certain conclusions that are inevitable. And the fact that people are not calling for this, for the most part, I think Republicans are fearful that they're losing their base, and that's because Obama is smarter than they are, in the sense that he's changing the demographic of the country. He's bringing in new voters. He's making people more reliant on government. So, of course, Obama's going to change everything. And Republicans are fearful that they'll be seen as way too political. But here's the bottom line.
But Judge, I think you're the only one on Fox who's ever called for his impeachment.